On 30th January 1925, an experienced and devoted cave explorer found himself confined in a 16-inch high underground tunnel, all alone in a cold, dark, rocky death trap. As rescuers attempted to reach him, his flicker of hope slowly started to burn down. While this sounds like a nightmare, it's actually the real-life story of Floyd Collins, who tragically lost his life in Sand Cave, Kentucky. Did his overambitiousness to escape poverty lead him to make the biggest mistake of his life? Or was this just another cave exploring attempt gone wrong? Let's find out. Let's start at the beginning. Floyd Collins was born 20th July 1887 in Kentucky. When Collins was a young boy, Kentucky was a land filled with hilly terrain and bottomless depths, especially the Mammoth Cave, which was renowned for having a vast, unexplored network of underground passages. As the commercial cavern businesses started to put out false advertisements in order to beat their competitors and attract more tourists, the poor farm families like Collins began to wonder whether their land had some hidden paths as well. In an attempt to entice explorers and earn some money, Collins began exploring caves at the age of 6. After many efforts, in 1917, he discovered the Crystal Cave on his family's farm and thus began the journey of a man determined to escape poverty, but ended up in a devastating situation. On Friday, 30th January 1925, Collins went to explore the Sand Cave, a place that wasn't very welcoming. The entrance was so narrow, a man could barely fit through. As it went deep, the passages became even more dangerous, with unstable walls and mud that seemed to stick on with every step. However, for Collins, this was nothing. He had explored much worse. During this excursion that set off a series of tragic events, he struggled quite a bit trying to squeeze through narrow passageways, inching through on his stomach with just a kerosene lantern to guide him. Finally, after all that effort, Collins had hit the jackpot when he found an 80-inch high passageway just 300 meters away from the entrance of the cave. As he made his way deeper into the cavern, feeling giddy and hopeful that his life was about to turn around, his lantern began flickering, and eventually it was pitch black in the cave. Reluctantly, he started journeying back to the surface. On his way back up, while trying to wiggle through a tight passage, he attempted to use his leg to push himself through, leading him to kick a 27-pound rock that fell on his foot and crammed his ankle, meaning he could no longer move and was trapped. It wasn't until the next morning that someone discovered Collins, when the son of the property owner heard faint cries for help. He immediately alerted the people nearby. Thus began the rescue mission that captured the entire nation's attention. Cavers, geologists, and engineers from all around the local areas gathered together in an attempt to save Collins. By Monday morning, the Kentucky National Guard sent 8 of their members to Sand Cave. Their main job was to keep the onlookers from disturbing the rescuers and getting in the way of their work. Soon enough, news outlets from all across the nation started reaching the scene. Regular updates were published about the situation. Families would crowd around radios to hear every word of the rescue. The situation at Sand Cave descended into chaos, where a once isolated Kentucky countryside became a metropolis of campfires, tents, and reporters as hundreds of spectators began arriving. It was a circus, with Collins at the center, still trapped and fighting for his life. As rescuers began working, they were faced with a nightmare. Since they couldn't bring in big equipment because of the cave's narrowness and sandy nature, they had to manually dig. This was strenuous and difficult work. Each step put the cave's shaky walls at risk of collapsing. Despite all that, they made every effort, including chipping away at the rock, somehow reaching close enough to give Collins food and water, and even trying to build an alternate tunnel so they could reach him from above. During all of this, Collins showed unbelievable strength. Despite being stuck in the cold, he tried to talk to the rescuers and let them know that he was alive. However, as the days passed by, Collins' health began deteriorating. His once clear voice had become pretty weak. The darkness seemed to surround him as the cold sank deeper into his bones. Things got even worse when, on February 4th, the continuous rain resulted in the ceiling of the cave collapsing. This resulted in all communication between Collins and the rescuers being cut off. Regardless of the situation, he tried his best to survive, although all hope was decreasing for him as time went on. Due to the collapse, the walls that were a few feet ahead of Collins had closed in, officially making it the last time anyone heard his voice. 2 days later, on February 6th, as a radio test confirmed that the explorer was still alive, rescuers restarted their attempt at creating a tunnel to safely take him out. Over the next few days, rescuers continued their efforts, while fights broke out between various parties, whether it was the spectators or the workers. There were also rumors that Collins was no longer in the cave, all of which resulted in even more chaos than before. On February 12th, the walls of the tunnel that the rescuers were working on also began collapsing due to the rain. Despite that, they claimed that they heard Collins coughing and therefore continued to work. By the 15th, most people had given up hope that he was alive, especially because it had been more than 2 weeks at that point and 10 days since they'd last heard from Collins. On 16th February 1925, after a 17-day rescue mission, they managed to connect the parallel tunnel with where Collins was and made the devastating discovery that he had died the day prior, still stuck under the very rock that trapped him. His family decided to bury him in the cave and held a funeral for him outside the entrance of the tunnel that the rescuers built. Since the sand cave incident gained much widespread media attention, when Collins' body was discovered and his death was announced, it resulted in the entire nation mourning a man they had never even met. Floyd Collins' story serves as a stark reminder of what could happen if you become too ambitious, giving us a sober reminder of the dangers that lie beneath the surface. Collins' legacy continues on to be a beacon of perseverance and courage. His tragic story inspired many books and documentaries, each conveying the sad story of a man who dared to dream and paid the ultimate price. It is unfortunate to think that had they reached him a day prior, Collins might have survived. What are your thoughts on this story of resilience and determination? Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe